First of all, you do not just walk in here. This is my place. So tell me, why did you come to my hometown?
Welcome to today's explainer. Look, a cobra strike is absolutely terrifying, but panic is your absolute worst enemy here. Today we're diving into the science-backed emergency protocol for a snakebite, because to save a life in this situation, you need cold, hard precision, not chaotic speed. Let's get right into exactly what happens and, more importantly, what you need to do.
You see, a cobra bite is absolutely a medical emergency, but here's the thing. It is not an automatic death sentence. I know it's so easy to just assume the absolute worst, but surviving a bite is entirely possible. If you know the rules and you strictly follow the life-saving protocol we're going to break down today, you can absolutely beat the odds.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the cobra strike itself. Then, the anatomy of a neurotoxin. After that, we'll cover the do's, your immediate actions, followed by the don'ts, which are those fatal mistakes you have to avoid. Finally, we'll wrap up with surviving the bite.
All right, part 1, the cobra strike. It's all about precision over speed.
Which brings us to part 2, anatomy of a neurotoxin or the invisible threat.
Okay, so what actually happens when a cobra strikes? Well, cobra venom is a neurotoxin. Think of it like a massive chemical roadblock. It literally blocks the signals firing between your nerves and your muscles. And what does that do? It causes paralysis. The really terrifying part, the immediate danger, is that it specifically targets and paralyzes the muscles you use for breathing.
Now here is a massive paradigm shift for a lot of people. Thanks to movies and TV, we've all been taught that snake venom just rushes right through your bloodstream, right? Well, actually, that's totally false. Cobra venom doesn't rush through your blood at all. It actually moves primarily through your lymphatic system.
And why does that matter? Because your lymphatic system is kind of like a manual pump. It relies on your body's physical movement to circulate fluids. So if you're running for help, walking, or even just pacing around in a total panic, you are literally pumping that venom further into your body. That's why staying perfectly still is your absolute first line of defense.
Let's move to part 3, the do's. These are your immediate actions.
If a bite happens, you've got 4 critical steps for survival. You need to keep perfectly still, remove any jewelry, cover the wound, and arrange transport immediately. Let's look closer at these.
First up, keeping the victim perfectly still. If the bite is on an arm or a leg, you've got to immobilize that limb. And here's a pro tip. Keep it at or slightly below the level of the heart. You're doing everything you can to fight that lymphatic spread we just talked about. Step 2 is removing jewelry. I'm talking rings, watches, tight bracelets. Get them off immediately, because the area is going to swell, and it's going to swell fast. If you leave that stuff on, those everyday items suddenly turn into incredibly dangerous tourniquets that cut off circulation. So get them off while you still easily can. Third, cover the wound. You don't need anything fancy here. Just use a clean, dry cloth to loosely cover the bite. Notice I said loosely. You are not applying pressure here. You're just protecting the puncture site from getting dirty. Fourth, and this is huge, transport immediately. You need to get the person to a hospital that actually has access to anti-venom. And whatever you do, do not wait around for symptoms to show up. By the time their breathing starts getting shallow, that neurotoxin is already actively shutting down nerve signals. You gotta move fast, but safely. All right, on to part 4, the don'ts. Let's debunk some fatal mistakes. Now please listen carefully to what you must never do. Forget everything Hollywood taught you. Do not cut the wound. Definitely don't try to suck out the venom. Do not use a tourniquet to restrict blood flow. Don't go putting ice, heat, or any weird chemicals on it. And please, do not waste precious time with folk remedies, herbal poultices, or those so-called snake stones. So why are we being so intense about these don'ts? It's simple. None of these methods actually work. Worse than that, they actively delay the one and only treatment that is actually going to save a life, which is anti-venom. When you waste time on false remedies, you are quite literally gambling with someone's life.
Finally, part 5, surviving the bite, the ultimate goal.
When you cut through all the noise, it all boils down to a beautifully simple 2-part mission. Drastically reduce the victim's physical activity and get them to professional medical care. Literally every single decision you make in the chaos of that moment should be driven by those 2 goals. Stay calm, keep them incredibly still, and get them to a hospital. You need to seek emergency medical care immediately. So I'm going to leave you with a proactive question right now. Do you know where your nearest hospital with anti-venom actually is? If you don't, figure it out today, way before you ever find yourself needing it. Because preparedness, mixed with calm, cool precision, that is exactly what saves lives. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning and hey, stay safe out there.